on to the point. The man accused of shooting into the ABC10 building will remain in jail. What we're learning about his 2 court appearances and his alleged behavior before the shooting. Insurance policy issues possibly heading to the ballot.
This will definitely be the battle of the last 4 decades at least.
The 2 competing proposals taking aim at California's insurance crisis. The only hospital in a small rural town is closing its doors.
We need a miracle. We need an act of Congress.
Why they're losing federal funding and what it means for emergency care. Good evening. Thank you for joining us on To The Point. I'm Becca Habiger. New details tonight in the case against the man accused of shooting at our ABC10 building. Anibal Hernandez Santana appeared in court this afternoon. ABC10's Gabriel Porras was at the courthouse and has more.
The suspect's attorney tried to paint his client as an educated, retired veteran with no criminal history, someone deserving of being released from jail. But prosecutors painted a much different picture, one of a dangerous suspect who had possibly plotted even more violence. Today, in federal court, a judge siding with prosecutors. In an orange jumpsuit with shackles at his feet, 64-year-old Anibal Hernandez Santana didn't react much as a federal judge denied bail and ordered him to remain in custody.
And as I spoke about in court, everything is not always exactly as it seems at first. There are always 2 sides to every story.
The suspect's attorney, Mark Reichel, told the judge that if Hernandez Santana was released, he agreed to several conditions, including an ankle monitor and house arrest. Hernandez Santana is accused of shooting at the ABC10 studios Friday, first near the back parking lot, less than 1,000 feet away from a school, and then into the window of the front lobby. In court records filed Thursday, federal prosecutors released this security camera photo, allegedly showing Hernandez Santana at a nearby elementary school 3 days before the shooting. According to court documents, he behaved weird and anxious as he asked to read to young students. He was eventually asked to leave. Prosecutors say the visit matches indicators of an active shooter's planning and preparation activities. In court, the suspect's attorney arguing that his client had legitimately wanted to volunteer at the school, that he left his contact information behind, and that he was looking around the office for staff members that he knew. The defense also spoke for the first time about the note that investigators say they found on the suspect's refrigerator calendar. Under Friday, it read, quote, "Do the next scary thing." Hernandez Santana's attorney says it was a self-help mantra, part of his Alcoholics Anonymous recovery group.
I cannot comment on the innocence or the guilt of anyone, but we also, likewise, we know that America is a nation that is held together by the rule of law,
In their filing, prosecutors writing that the shooting, quote, appeared to be part of a wider plot to conduct additional acts of violence.
He's detained there until further notice from the federal system.
A planned arraignment on his state charges was brief. Hernandez Santana unable to appear because of the federal hold. His attorney appeared for him and agreed to a continuation.
Right now, my client is innocent until 12 people inside of this building at some point after a trial where fair evidence is presented find that he is no longer innocent.
The suspect's attorney didn't take any of our questions today. We did reach out to Sac City Unified about the suspect's alleged visit to one of its campuses. They sent a statement saying that they are cooperating with law enforcement and determining whether any additional safety measures need to be taken. At federal court in Sacramento, Gabriel Porras, ABC10.
The suspect is set to appear again in federal court next week for arraignment. Well, some positive news amid California's insurance crisis. 5 homeowners insurers have committed to staying and growing in California. That's according to the state's Department of Insurance. Those companies are Mercury, CSAA, USAA, Pacific Specialty, and California Casualty. The department says this is one of several signs of market improvement under the insurance commissioner's sustainable insurance strategy. But there are now 2 dueling ballot initiatives aimed at taking a different approach to solutions. Last month, an independent insurance agent named Elizabeth Hammock submitted a ballot measure called the California Insurance Market Reform and Consumer Protection Act of 2026.
It's designed specifically with consumer protections packed in it, basically, and incentives for carriers to write.
Carl Sussman of Sussman Insurance Agency is in favor of the measure. He says it would make some major changes to Prop 103. That's the 1988 voter-approved measure that forms the framework for the state's entire insurance marketplace. For example, he says Prop 103 made California Insurance Commissioner an elected, not appointed position. The proposed change?
This proposition would require the insurance commissioner to have, wait for it, insurance background and a license, which I've never understood exactly how it hasn't been like that.
Carmen Bulber is against that change.
That is the definition of having an industry regulate itself.
She's the executive director of Consumer Watchdog, a consumer group that just last week filed its own ballot initiative called the Insurance Policyholder Bill of Rights in direct response to this other measure.
The measure that was filed by the insurance broker would eliminate the protections of Proposition 103.
She says Consumer Watchdog's measure would strengthen consumer protections by requiring insurance companies to issue policies to homeowners who protect their homes against wildfires, among other changes. Critics like Sussman say Consumer Watchdog's bill would further drive insurance companies out of the state.
There's things in it that would tank the insurance industry almost by design.
Bulber disagrees.
We've been looking at all of these various reforms in the Bill of Rights for many years now.
The first ballot measure would also remove a funding source for Consumer Watchdog. Prop 103 allows a group that intervenes in insurance company rate filings to help lower rates for consumers to be paid for their time by insurers. Consumer Watchdog, whose founder wrote Prop 103, is the main group that does this. The measure Sussman supports would eliminate that reimbursement, though not the intervener process altogether.
Prop 103 has consumer protections for things like discrimination and unfair claims practice. All of that stuff stays the same.
Both measures are jam-packed with changes and ideas, and it's not guaranteed either will end up on the November 2026 ballot. But if they do,
this will definitely be, the battle of the last 4 decades, at least, in insurance in California.
both ballot measures are still in the very early stages of getting qualified for the November 2026 ballot. And there's a lot of fundraising and signature gathering that still has to happen, and it's even possible one or both do not move forward. We'll keep you posted. The fight against redistricting in California is reaching the federal level. Steve Hilton, a Republican running for governor, filed a lawsuit in the U.S. Central District Court earlier this month and is now asking that same court for an injunction to stop Proposition 50. Prop 50 would temporarily set aside districts crafted by an independent commission and replace them with reshaped districts designed to shift 5 Republican U.S. House seats to Democrat. Democrats say the move is in response to redistricting in Texas, there to gain 5 more Republican seats in the 2026 midterm elections. The California Republican Party has tried twice now to sue over the measure, but both attempts were rejected by the state Supreme Court. Hilton says he has higher hopes at the federal level because he's alleging the proposition violates the 14th Amendment.
We have better odds because our argument is stronger. The lawsuits that have already been filed were all about the process, not the underlying constitutional principle of one person, one vote. Everyone's vote should be of equal value.
Hilton says he wants the injunction in place before ballots are sent out to voters. Former FBI Director James Comey was indicted today on charges of lying to Congress. This is related to his testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee in 2020. The indictment makes Comey the first former senior government official to face prosecution in the investigation into alleged Russian interference in the 2016 election. The 2-count indictment includes charges of making a false statement to Congress, as well as obstruction of a criminal proceeding. Comey says he is innocent and cites the costs of standing up to President Trump. Federal rules are forcing a small rural medical center to close, what it means for thousands of residents who may soon be left without emergency care. And new findings tonight on LA County's deadly January wildfires and critical gaps that may have cost lives.
Just a few showers and thunderstorms left over as we're heading into this Thursday evening. A much bigger weather system bringing more rain and cooler temperatures next week.
New information tonight on January's deadly wildfires in Los Angeles County. An outside review of the county's response to the fires found a lack of resources and an outdated emergency alert process led to delays in warning residents about the need to evacuate. The independent after-action report was commissioned by county supervisors after the Eaton and Palisades killed more than 30 people and destroyed thousands of homes. Well, ABC10 Chief Meteorologist Monica Woods joins us. Monica, it felt humid today, huh?
It certainly did. Yeah, that weather system that was moving its way from Southern California up north brought a dynamic lightning chill last night. Still tracking those thunderstorms earlier this afternoon through the Sierra. A couple of lightning strikes left over here as we head into the early evening hours. But that system is on the way off to the east. Behind it, a much bigger, more organized system is on the way in the forecast. Tonight, we see clearing skies. Tomorrow, north winds will bring an elevated fire risk in the north end of the valley. Sierra storms will continue through the weekend outlook, but measurable rain in the forecast by next week. Highs for today in the upper 80s, lower 90s throughout the valley, 70s for the coast, 70s and 80s for the foothills, and 70s for the Sierra. As far as tonight, again, we'll see the clearing skies. Tomorrow afternoon is when we pick up those north winds. That is going to bring a bump up in temperatures for our Friday. And then for Saturday, Sunday, a slight chance of thunderstorms for the Sierra. There's that red flag warning in effect for the north end of the valley Friday morning through Saturday morning. But again, this is the one to watch. That big low pressure system bringing us our first fall rain showers that looks like it's going to be more than 1/10 of an inch, anywhere from about 1/4 of an inch to almost an inch of rain throughout Northern California. Tomorrow, it's our Friday forecast wrapping up this first week of fall. Highs in the 70s for the Sierra with 80s to near 90 down the hill. As we head towards the coast, highs in the 70s with 90s inland. For the capital region, we'll see those morning lows starting us off in the 50s to near 60. A pretty pleasant start to our Friday with the clear skies. And then for the afternoon, again, we are going to be warming those temperatures back to the 90s. So a little taste of summer in there to wrap us up for the work week. Heading into the first weekend of fall, again, a mix of sun and clouds. Highs will be in the 80s on Saturday. That's our warmer day of the two-day weekend. Sunday, our highs drop to the 70s. But as we turn our attention to early next week, look at that. A chance of rain developing during the day on Monday, continues through Tuesday into early Wednesday. Highs in the 70s. We'll be monitoring this very closely over the weekend into early next week.
Ooh, great weather for the Urban Cow Half Marathon on Sunday. Very exciting. Well, next on To the Point, a rural Northern California community is about to lose its only hospital after losing critical funding. What that means for patients and jobs.
About an hour and a half north of Sacramento, right off the 5 freeway, is Glenn County. And if you're familiar with it, you know that this is a farming community. But they're about to lose their only hospital.
Welcome to Willows, a rural Northern California farming community in Glenn County. Like many rural communities, their hospital, Glenn Medical Center, is no stranger to struggle.
Rural healthcare is a different animal. And I say that because we struggle with the lack of resources. And what that means is that we build resilience.
And that struggle is about to get even harder. Glenn Medical Center, the only hospital in the county, is closing.
So unfortunately, this was something that was done to us. We had not a lot of say in this matter. This was a CMS decision, the Center for Medicaid Services.
After 24 years serving the community, Glenn Medical Center lost a key federal designation. Under the Centers for Medicaid Services critical access rules, hospitals must be at least 35 miles apart to qualify for certain federal funding. Glenn Medical is just 32 miles from its nearest neighbor, Colusa Medical Center. Liz says they've tried talking to the agency run by Dr. Oz.
They are essentially measuring them off of Google Maps and saying the primary road says you are 32 miles, not 35. And so we try to tell them that is not the road that the ambulances take. That is the road that is often flooded. That is the road that our employees don't take, our patients don't take. It didn't matter.
How much of your budget depends on Medicaid and Medicare funding?
It would be a 40% cut. We would not be able to stay open without this.
Why do you think this is happening now?
They are just deciding to crack down on things. CMS has decided to look at all hospitals all across the country. With the cuts that are coming down from administration, we were just one of the first.
What do you mean by that?
So we actually asked CMS, if you are going to hold us to these guidelines, what about all of the other hospitals that do not meet these guidelines? And their response was that they too will be getting a letter at some point soon.
According to Glenn Medical, Glenn County already ranks near the bottom in California for healthcare access and outcomes, including one of the state's highest cancer death rates.
One of the first departments set to close at Glenn Medical Center, the emergency room.
The emergency department is set to close September 30th. Once the ER shuts down, the rest of the hospital is expected to follow.
Our clinics will remain open in this building for at least a year. our medical records will remain in this building for at least a year. So you can still request your medical records you can still talk to the building department. What you cannot do is get emergency services.
For many Glenn County residents, the nearest hospital will now be a 30 to 40-minute drive. That's a serious challenge in a community with a growing senior population, high poverty, and limited transportation.
If you have a heart attack, if you have a stroke, anything like that, it's 30 to 40 minutes away. And with our ambulances being so limited, it's going to be a struggle.
Rural hospitals that shut down can also bring job losses, drive families away, and make it harder to attract new doctors or businesses. This summer, Glenn Medical Hospital administrators flew to Washington, D.C. to meet with Dr. Oz and CMS officials, but
they arrived and the appointment was canceled within 30 minutes of the actual appointment time. They were told that CMS had everything that they needed to make a decision, and that was it. Now, I am told that our Chief Operations Officer, Amy McKelly, was able to meet with Dr. Oz a few days ago, but that the outcome did not change.
We're doing everything we can because we don't want to lose that. I've been a longtime advocate of helping our rural hospitals.
Congressman Doug LaMalfa, who represents the district where Glenn Medical is located, says that he plans to introduce new legislation aimed at keeping the hospital open.
So we're dropping a piece of legislation very soon to change that status for them and put them back into eligibility. Now, we've been trying to urge them don't just close so quick because we're trying to do this. It takes a while to grind this stuff out in Congress and grind out the agencies. The bad thing is once they close the doors completely for 1 minute, then all that eligibility is gone. The mountain is just 10 times harder to climb on that.
What do you think the future of rural health care really looks like, especially under this current administration?
Scary. It's scary. And I say that as someone who works in emergency management and safety, someone who cares about the patient, someone who was raised in this area. It's scary. My family lives in this area, and my father has a history of heart attacks. If something happens to him, and the resources are scarce, and there's no help available, I'm going to lose my father because of something like this. And I'm not the only one feeling that way. That's what all our patients are feeling.
The federal government has now set aside $50 billion specifically for rural hospitals called the Rural Health Transformation Fund. If that were to go through, could that realistically help your hospital, or is it kind of a little too late now?
It's a little too late right now. I hope that it goes through because healthcare needs the assistance right now. But as far as our hospital goes, it would not be quick enough to save us.
If you could talk to the administration directly, is there anything you would like to say to them to keep the hospital open?
We need a miracle. We need an act of Congress.
And Liz wants the community to know.
We did everything within our power. And we're very sorry this was not the outcome that any of us wanted. And we will do everything we possibly can in the future. We remain committed to rural health care. We remain invested in this community and your families and our staff. We will always have a heart here.
We reached out to CMS, who confirmed Glenn Medical can no longer be certified as a critical access hospital, but can be certified under another provider type. And that's a decision the hospital and state would have to make. Well, still ahead, a new documentary shines a spotlight on one of the most iconic figures in broadcast journalism. A quick programming note for tonight. ABC is airing a documentary on the life and legacy of Barbara Walters. It debuts tonight right here on ABC10. Barbara Walters' Tell Me Everything captures the news legend's career, from shattering the glass ceiling to breaking into network news as a woman. Walters died nearly 3 years ago at the age of 93. She was perhaps best known for her countless candid interviews with everybody from A-list celebrities to world leaders. Well, thank you so much for watching and inviting us into your home. Hey, the Terra Madre Americas, the Sacramento's new Farm to Fork Festival is going to be kicking off tomorrow through Sunday at the Safe Credit Union Convention Center in and around that area. So that's going to be something fun for this weekend. And if you have something you think we should be looking into, please reach out to the team. You can email tothepoint@abc10.com. And remember, To The Point doesn't end here. To watch stories featured on the show, you can download our free ABC 10 Plus streaming app to your TV. Have a great and safe night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.